Get your minds off.
You're gold star.
Maryland.
An experience in itself.
Hope I burn out right.
Well, he wrote the,
Never mind, I'll tell you that it's break.
Okay, all right. If we will please stand and we will have Reverend Sid sign, give our invocation. Reverend?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd invite those who so wish to join me now in prayer. Holy and gracious God, you are the creator of all communities, large and small. We recognize your presence among us to guide, to strengthen, and to steady in the responsibilities of leadership and the sacred duty of caring for one another. We remember that Jesus was born not in a palace, but in a small town and raised among neighbors, governed by local leaders, and shaped his daily life. And so we lift up the leaders of our town today of Atchison, this commission, elected by the people and trusted with decisions that affect our daily life, charged with vision and stewardship and care. May they serve with wisdom and humility and courage. We also pray for those who labor day by day, for our city employees, for our administrative staff, council, and for those who protect and respond, our police officers, our EMS workers, firefighters, and all public servants who come quickly to the aid of their neighbors. Bless them in their work and in their rest, and may they lead with integrity, manage with compassion, and act always with a deep love for this community. Grant all of us pure hearts and clear minds to seek the common good above all else, and may the work begun in this place tonight be a blessing to every home and every person in our beloved city. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. I now call the meeting officially to order. And Tina, if you could please call the roll.
Mayor Young,
Present.
Vice Mayor Wilcox.
Present.
Commissioner Greenlee,
Present.
Commissioner Murphy,
Present.
Commissioner Slattery.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, we will open for public forum, and persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items that are not on the agenda, again, items that are not on the agenda may do so at this time when called upon by the mayor. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should give their name and address when addressing the commission. Any presentation is for informational purposes only. Any and all written communication should be deposited with the city clerk. At this time, I open the public forum. Yes, sir, if you could state your name.
David Burns, 219 M Street. I'm here to try to get from Division to Harper Drive down to 20 miles per hour on 3rd Street.
On 3rd Street.
You got all them kids crossing out, getting the packages. You got UPS, you got FedEx, you got Amazon. You got a lot of traffic on 3rd Street, as narrow as it is. We need to get it down to 20 miles per hour if we can. Because there's going to be a bad accident up there if we don't. Because you got even semis coming down through there now. You know, so, and that's a narrow street. Real narrow. So
excuse me, where did you say that is? 3rd Street from where?
From Division up to Harper Drive.
Oh, okay.
I mean, mostly that's all school up there, getting pretty close to being all school now.
Sure.
I mean, you know, so,
That's the back end, the back side of those dorms.
right.
And yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see you take it into consideration and try to do it. I mean, I appreciate your time and thank you for listening to me. And
Thank you. We'll look into that.
All right, thank you very
have a
much.
good evening.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
What's the speed limit there now?
If it's not marked in city limits, it's 30 miles per hour.
Okay, all right, anyone else for public forum? Anyone else? If not, we will close our public forum right now. All right, next, our consent agenda presented by Mr. Mark Westhoff.
The Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We only have 2 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first is to approve the minutes from the July 14th Special City Commission meeting, and the second is to approve the minutes from the July 21st City Commission meeting.
Okay,
I'll move with
okay.
that.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? Questions? Okay, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, on our new business, we have 910 Kansas rezone request, and that will be presented by Mr. Phil Burke, our zoning officer. Mr. Burke.
Greetings from the Planning Commission. What we have before you is a July action they took on 910 Kansas Avenue. They requested to be changed from B4 to R1 single family. The majority of the reason was they would like to have chickens. Chicken ordinance is written only for single family zoning. So the Planning Commission voted 6-1 to deny them a zoning request.
Okay.
You got any questions?
What was the basis for them voting to deny the request?
They didn't think the chicken ordinance, having chickens was quite a worthy cause. And then there is a lot of B4 and R3 multifamily around. There's no other R1 around there. So then there was spot zoning for that particular case.
Okay, I see.
Would it be easier to change the chicken ordinance and take the zoning requirements off of it from being R1 to being, you can have chickens?
Well, if you want chickens in multifamily housing where 6 units would have 6 coops out back, I don't think that's the intention of the.
Yeah.
I don't think that's likely.
But you could, if the commission wanted to, we could look at rewording it so that it's about the primary use of the lot being single-family use rather than the zoning. There are many lots in town that are zoned R2 or R3, but are private, or are single-family lots. They're zoned that way because the neighborhood is zoned that way, and there's an opportunity to, increase in the future in that parcel, but they're zoned to match the neighborhood. So, there's maybe some wiggle room there, but I do think going back to look at the original ordinance, the intention of the city commission when they passed that ordinance was clearly to allow chickens in single-family lots where the setback requirements that are in that ordinance and the nuisance issues that can come with a chicken coop are all kind of, they're more possible in a single-family lot. When you get into larger multifamily lots or commercial lots or anything, that becomes much more of an issue. So that's why they focused on the single family.
What's the staff recommend?
What's that?
What's the staff recommend on this?
I think it probably based on spot zoning alone, it should stay with the denial. I think the chicken ordinance could be rewritten, tooled a little bit differently.
But isn't this house that we're talking about is 911,
910 Kansas,
excuse me, thank you.
just west of the
Has been a
7th.
single-family home for all the years that I've been alive. Now, somebody said there had been a business in there once before.
I guess it used to belong to the church.
Yeah, part of it was it has changed uses through the years. If you look at the history of the lot, it was built as a single family home, but it was also connected with the church. There's some memory in the planning commission, at least, of there being a business in there at some point, of it being an apartment style building at some point. It is back now to single family and has been for a while. I do think that there's maybe a discussion about the B4 zoning not being very reasonable for it, but going to R1 based on the residential around it would, I think, also likely be considered spot zoning.
Well, wouldn't we look at it if it's zoned B4 now? Is that what it is, B4? It's not. That's not the land use.
Correct. Yeah,
The land use right now is single-family home. And if it is a single-family home, whether you put an R1 or B5 by it, the house is still being used as a single-family home and has for years. And the fact that we designated it B4, or B3, whatever it is.
Before.
Before.
Yeah. It's just a happenstance. I don't know why that, I mean, land.
Well, it's most likely what the use of it was when, it's most likely that it matches the use of what that property had when the zoning regulations were passed, which was in the 70s, when the original zoning regulations were
I
passed.
think it's been before.
Before
for-
that. So
Beyond that.
I would guess that it most likely is right on the boundary between B4 neighborhood and an R3 neighborhood, but that entire strip and even a block to the north of that, all the residential units are R3.
I forget, what's the deal on a non-conforming use permit?
Of like a variance, is that?
How does that work? It has to have been there before the zoning, is that correct?
Oh, I see. If it, yeah, like if it's grandfathered into the, yes, that had to, the condition existed before the zoning. Examples being, some of the larger homes up in the old Atchison neighborhood clearly have a second apartment over in the carriage house. They're zoned R1 because they were grandfathered into that from the original zoning. So that's a good example of
I
that.
see. Yes, sir.
The zoning, the zoning has a progression that allows for by right.
Mm-hmm.
And the presumption
Yeah.
in the zoning regulations is that the zoning becomes friendly to density downtown.
Yep.
This is not a current, the zoning map is not a current land use map. Zoning map, meaning that's what is allowed to be built there without a variance, without changing the zoning. As you've seen, changing
Yeah.
zoning, if you're trying to upzone something, it's a significant
Process.
hurdle, a significant process to get through. So for somebody who's trying to build something, it's entirely possible somebody could buy, do some improvements and turn it into a duplex, and they can do that by right
Yeah.
with the current zoning. If it's R1, they can't do that. So the swath of B4 is then followed by a swath of
R3.
R3, and it becomes generally more R1 oriented the further you get from downtown.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
True.
Okay.
And so what would R3 be?
R3 is any kind of apartment condo. It's multifamily.
R2 is-
R2 is like duplexes,
Duplex only.
connected units
Okay.
that have a shared wall, but it's only up to two families.
In our chicken ordinance, the ordinance regarding chicken, it has to be, the land has to be R1. Is
That's
that
the
right?
way that it was passed, yes.
Okay.
So it's if you read through the regulation on the chickens, it mostly discusses saying the intention is single family, and then it says the way that is.
R1 is a common
that
denominator.
R1 is what's used.
We don't
as
have
the-
a single-family zone, we have an
Yeah,
R1 zone.
yeah.
So we
So
have to
then they
use
said, so then
R1.
that's the easy way to, enforce that is to say R1.
Would it make more sense for the ordinance to say, instead of zone R1, that it said current land use?
Is single family.
It's
That the current
and there's
land
a
use
lot
is
of-
single
A
family.
lot on Kansas Avenue, there's
Yes, yeah.
single family.
There are. I mean, that is.
I think we're making this more difficult than it needs to be. These people want to do something that's legal,
What
but
would
not
you
to
think-
that, because
What would you
somebody.
think about if we deny this and then look at that chicken ordinance?
I mean, that's.
I think
clearly-
procedurally, that probably makes more sense. Again, the concern with the spot zoning is, as Justin was saying, if you have this neighborhood that has been zoned R3, it opens up a by right level that they can do of upscaling that they can do in that neighborhood, and having one lot being R1, it would be considered spot zoning. So.
I see. We've heard a lot from this side. Gentlemen, do you have thoughts?
Did the planning commission have any problem with chickens in general, or did they only spoke to the,
I didn't see any negative actions toward chickens, so I
get
think
tired of that
they're
here pretty
pro
quick.
poultry, I think.
Yeah.
well, I would agree with Bill that we look at the chicken thing and maybe rephrase the language of that would allow them to accomplish what they want.
Assign it to land use instead of the.
So last week I didn't know there
designated
was a
zone.
chicken rule.
Okay, I
Rather than rezoning.
Okay.
I just got some, I've seen some people with 6 dogs or whatever, but I didn't know
That's a different story.
chickens ate that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're tired of
Commissioner
them
Green?
chickens.
Lesser of two evils.
Okay.
Just go with that.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it sounds like that we are leaning toward denying this request, so we'll approve by majority vote the Planning Commission's recommendation, and then we will ask staff then to take a look at our chicken ordinance.
Sure.
All right, so I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Does that motion include the relook at the chicken ordinance?
Yes, it does.
Well, yeah, that's direction to staff. It's not part of the motion, but you have all given us direction to do that, so.
All right, any other questions?
So if we vote yay,
If we vote yea, we are denying, we are approving the Planning Commission's override.
No, sorry. What you were doing is you were approving the Planning Commission's denial of the rezone.
Yes.
The override was the other option.
Oh, okay, so sorry about that. So we are approving the Planning Commission's override, or approval. Let me just do it this way. I move that we approve the Planning Commission's majority vote in denying the zoning request for 910 Kansas Avenue. And there was a second by our Vice Mayor. Is there any other question?
Well, I'm also not crazy about going against the planning commission
Right.
insights.
Right.
We need to keep that consideration all the time.
We do, because we appointed the Planning Commission.
Sure.
And I think it's in extraordinary circumstances where we would need to override them. So any other questions or concerns? Okay, if not, we are ready to vote. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
aye.
All right, we have 4 yays and 1 nay. Motion carries. All right, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, number 2, water treatment plant, presented by Clinton McNamee.
Good afternoon. All right, so last fall, the commission authorized us to replace the South Tower booster pump that's out at the water treatment facility. It took a while to get that material in. Earlier this year, the company came to begin that installation, but found that the valves to isolate that pump were seized and could not be shut down. So then we reached out to our on-call engineer to try to devise a way to isolate this pump so that we could, actually devise a way to replace the valves, which then we can do the pump later. The engineer worked with a contractor called Mega KC and came up with performing what's called a line stop freeze. So they take a cooling agent, circulate it around the pipe, freezes the water, creates an ice plug in the pipe, and gives them enough time to get those valves switched out. The proposal from Mega to replace a 16 and a 12-inch valve and do the line stop procedure is $83,333.38. And then just kind of as a recap of what the booster pump is, it is mainly providing water up to the South Tower, which then the South Tower we primarily use to backwash our filters. There's also some other secondary uses such as providing seal water for the active flow system. But we have no redundancy in this recommended replacement. Higher than we thought because of these valves, but the primary concern would be the backwashing. We have a backup way of doing it using the south tank, but that relies on pumps and not, the height of a tower to provide that pressure. The pumps can't provide the same amount of pressure and water flow to adequately backwash the filters. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It's not in the CIP this year.
Okay.
However, we looked at the fund balance and found that there was sufficient fund balance to cover it. And we'll adjust the CIP moving forward to incorporate it.
What do the valves cost alone, do you know?
They didn't provide a breakdown in the quote, but if you were to simply just Google 16-inch, 12-inch valves, I think you'd find that they're in the 10 to 20,000 range.
Quite large.
Maybe even more for this specific valve. I'm not sure, but
Let's put something here in 12.
Okay. And this is something that is absolutely necessary, Clinton?
it's not absolutely necessary today. It might be absolutely necessary 3 weeks from now, a year from, it's kind of one
Okay.
of those things.
Okay.
If we push it off a year, you can guarantee a price increase.
Yeah.
And, there's really no advantage. I think we have the funding to do it.
Okay.
So I don't really recommend, it's already past due. This is something they've been wrestling with for quite a while.
Okay.
So even
There you
if
go,
the
Mike.
valves would work, we'd still have a problem replacing them.
If the valves worked, we'd be good to go. We could close it off, replace the pump, but the valves, neither of them will close.
Right.
The 12-inch valve is the 10,394 in that quote,
Thought it was somewhere.
because the 16-inch and the line stop isolation are included in the top line of that quote together.
Page 14.
Okay.
And no piping needs to be replaced. I went out and looked at it.
Okay.
The valves are isolated themselves with connecting joints, so.
Okay.
So the pump came in 16,000 under the original estimate, so you gained a little money there, did you not?
Yep.
So if you don't freeze, this freezing part, what does that cost us? Like half of
They
this or
put it
better?
here, it's estimated at 35,000 of the total.
Yeah.
Isn't there any way to get around that? You can't drain that down, run off them pumps you were talking about?
There's no way to close it, so there'd be water constantly coming through.
But if you drain the whole tower down, it wouldn't?
There's water going into the system from the other direction.
You can't shut that.
This is the valve to shut it off.
Well, we just didn't open and shut the valve periodically? Is that what happened to it?
I
Quit-
don't know the answer to that.
I was out there today, and Quentin mentioned that in the past, there was in that room where those are located, there was a chemical spill in the past that they think might have caused some of the issues with the valves, but they're not 100% sure. They went to close them and they wouldn't close, and they don't want to break them.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay, all right. Any further comment, or are we ready to vote? I move that we authorize staff to hire Mega KC to replace 2 valves at the water treatment plant in the amount of $83,333.38, including a change order authority of $2,000. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, third thing is the MOCAN board appointment presented by our city manager, Mr. Westhoff. Mr. Westhoff.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. So MOCAN Regional Council is a regional planning commission and economic development district. They're recognized by the states of Kansas and Missouri and the federal government to do that work. It's comprised of 36 municipalities, 6 counties in northwest Missouri and northeast Kansas. In the past, so including Atchison County, in the past, the city of Atchison has been a member of MOCAN, and in the recent past, we have not been. I've been speaking with the executive director of MOCAN, and we decided to give it another shot. The commissioners gave direction to go ahead and do that. So we reestablished our membership in June of 2025, and that gives us 2 seats on the MOCAN board to be appointed by the city commission. So I was going to request one appointment to be myself and then have one appointment be one of the commissioners.
Okay.
So that's what today we're looking at appointing individuals to serve on the MoCan Regional Council Board as
Okay.
representatives of the city of Atchison.
Okay. Does anyone have any problem with Mark serving on the board, on this board?
Would be preferable.
Okay, very good. And is anyone else interested in addition to Mark?
Bill said he was.
Okay, Commissioner Murphy. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all right. Is there a motion to appoint both Commissioner Murphy and our city manager, Mark Westhoff, to the MoCan board?
I'll move.
Okay, is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we appoint Commissioner Murphy and our city manager, Mark Westhoff, to the MoCan board. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion,
Do I have to recuse, or can I vote for
vote.
myself?
you can vote for yourself.
Go ahead and vote for yourself.
I want 2 votes in.
Motion carries. All right. Congratulations, gentlemen. All right, next we have communications by Mr. Westhoff.
Yep. I'm just giving hand those out to them and. Maybe, did I leave my paper over there? There we go.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, first, we have 3 communications, letters, all from the Department of Commerce, granting our requests for various extensions on the CDBG projects throughout town. There were no concerns from Commerce on any of those. And then last, I have my city manager update. So work continues on the CDBG project at Elephant Park. Again, we're planning for the final construction of that to take place in October. The sidewalk project in town, the 12th Street intersection is complete now and open. I encourage you to go drive it. It's much smoother than it was before. And the work continues on 13th and 14th Street, and I think those are their last sections that they're working on. So that should be completed soon. The sections that are already done are really nice. Everything is looking really good with that project. We had a walkthrough this morning with the 3 finalists for our technology upgrades and IT services. We will likely have a staff recommendation and an agreement to look at the next city commission meeting for those projects. Reminder, the project side of it, which we'll discuss, we were recommending to use some of the ARPA funds for those projects that need done, and then we're looking at a new contract with an IT company for the city. The Lions Pool final day is Friday, August 8th. So get in before school starts. Quick update on the credit card fees discussion. We're still planning to begin these on October 1st. We are having conversations with several potential processor companies who are, so we're having those conversations, and based on the initial discussions, we do believe we'll be able to bring in the actual fee below 4%. We aren't 100% sure yet, but likely it will come in below 4%. Though it is likely going to end up being a convenience fee rather than a card surcharge. So in that case, it does include debit cards. That's the way that the processors handle those, and it is, then you can pass that on if the processors handle debit cards in that way. And I just, as a reminder to everyone, the city does have free automatic bank drafting, so you don't have to worry about anything. There are no fees on it, and you can find the forms for that and details on how to set it up on our website. Okay, and then the last thing is a quick presentation on the traffic study that was completed on 2nd and 3rd Street. City Commission commissioned this study to be done by our in-house on-call engineering consultant, Benish. So studies were done in that section of town. The traffic counts and speeds were taken on a Tuesday during the school year. So you can really kind of talk about this being a peak traffic condition kind of day. absent maybe football games and those kinds of things that bring in, obviously, one-time traffic surges in that area. So a couple notes from the study, and please take it with you, and we will post it online as well. The traffic count on 2nd Street for one day in that time frame was 3,675 vehicles. But Benish notes that based on the street design, it could handle much more than that we're not near, street design capacity. Obviously, you don't want to get close to that, but we have plenty of room there if
That was
there are
which
more
street?
cars.
I'm sorry.
2nd Street,
2nd Street.
yes. However, the concern on 2nd Street was ultimately speed. If you look at the speed at the end of the study, the 85th percentile speed on 2nd Street throughout the whole day was 37 miles per hour, just 7 miles per hour over the speed limit. And the top speed that they counted on 2nd Street in the middle of the day was 67 miles per hour. And there were 2 other vehicles that they clocked between 55 and 60 as
That's
well.
on which street?
On 2nd Street,
On 2nd Street.
southbound, all the higher speeds were southbound, downhill, I guess.
Gosh, okay.
And frankly, they were all like between 2:30 p.m. and 5 p.m., which is just
Wow.
worst possible idea to me to be speeding in that area at that time. There were 28 crashes in that area in 5 years, with 4 injury accidents and no fatalities. A majority of the crashes on 2nd Street were moving vehicle versus stationary object. That could be other parked cars. It could be, running into a curb or a tree or a mailbox or a trash can. But it's the majority of the accidents on 2nd Street were moving vehicle versus stationary object. So that was 2nd Street. Quick summary. 3rd Street. The vehicle count was 537 vehicles. Much lower on 3rd Street. They did not find any problems with speed on 3rd Street. The speed limit, as we discussed earlier with the gentleman who shared about 3rd Street just north of this section,
Right.
speed limit's technically 30 miles per hour there.
Okay.
But that was not, the average speed. The average speed was 24. The 85th percentile speed was actually 30, was the speed limit. So you could say the people who were going fastest were actually getting to around the speed limit. There were some higher speeds. The highest calculated in that section was, I believe, 45, which again, for a street that narrow is a little scary. I can't imagine anyone feeling comfortable going that fast, but they were. The feedback we got from the engineering firm, the traffic engineers on this, is that they read this as the street conditions somewhat patrolling itself. So the width of the street and the fact that it's a residential neighborhood, which means there are a lot of parked cars, means that cars go slower naturally without having to add any kind of speed baffling or speed calming in that area. It's not a thoroughfare street, and by these numbers, it's not used as a thoroughfare. That's kind of what we saw on 2nd Street. 3rd Street had 9 crashes in 5 years, and none of them were injury crashes. There were no serious crashes, which again is partly because of the lower speeds. So there's some recommendations in there. Ultimately, the engineering firm does not recommend any widening of streets, any removing parking, or making any of the streets one-ways. Those are listed in the survey's options 1, 3, and 5 because of the disadvantages of those. For example, any of those, widening the street, removing parking, or making them one-way, will lead to added speed on both, wherever you do that. And then that usually leads to more dangerous crashes. Maybe not more crashes, but when the crashes happen, they're injury crashes. It also creates inconvenience to locals. These are residential areas. These are not commercial areas. Even 2nd Street, which has a lot of traffic, is still a residential area. And so it would be taking a residential street and making it into a thoroughfare artery type street, which they believe has quite a few disadvantages to it. In fact, they make no recommended change. They recommend no changes on 3rd Street. There was some discussion about possibly adding some kind of reminder signage about this is a neighborhood or children playing or those kinds of things. They can continue to add a little visual cues to people that you're in a neighborhood. If you want to go down a street that you can go a little faster, you've got 4th and 2nd on either side. So that is recommended on 3rd Street. On 2nd Street, staff and the engineers recommend looking at an incremental approach to speed reduction on 2nd Street. These are using recommendations number 2 and 4 in the study. These are temporary, inexpensive measures that make it easy to make changes to them if they aren't working. And then if they are successful and they are working, you can look at long-term trying to make them more permanent. An example of this kind of thing is the pedestrian crosswalk between St. Benedict School across Unity Street. There are temporary pedestrian bump outs there that have proven successful, and they're likely going to be part of the sidewalk upgrades that we do on Unity Street next year. So here's the recommendations for 2nd Street. Consider adding radar-activated speed limit signs on 2nd Street between Atchison and Mound, somewhere in there. Something like these. Maybe not these specifically, but something like them. They can be solar powered, they're fairly inexpensive, and studies show that they do slow people down. The person going 67 miles per hour knew that they were speeding, but quite a few other people probably don't realize they're speeding, and something like that is a good reminder. And then we would increase enforcement after placing that signage as well. Consider adding yellow paint to all 4 corners, the intersections at 3rd and Santa Fe and 3rd and Laramie. That's staff recommendation. We've seen some success with that on 2nd Street, just to remind drivers to not park so close to the curb, to the intersection, increasing sight lines at those 2 fairly busy intersections on 3rd Street. And then obviously we would want to increase enforcement if we were telling people not to park there as well. Those are the 2 intersections on 3rd that we think have the most traffic. There's apartment buildings at both of those intersections. And so if we want to consider something on 3rd, that's a good first step.
Which street was that, did you say?
What's that?
Which street did you say
On
that?
3rd and Santa Fe and 3rd and Laramie. 3rd and Santa Fe is right before the hill, right? And 3rd and Laramie is up near the 3rd Street apartments.
Well, 2nd Street, coming from the east onto 2nd is an issue that way too, right?
From Atchison?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've
From Laramie north.
Yes. So I have more there. So we've done the painting at the intersections on 2nd Street, and it has helped a bit. However, then kind of the next step would be to consider adding temporary curb bump outs on 2nd Street at the intersections where we painted. So Laramie, Riley, and Mound.
Okay.
The idea there is something like these.
Oh, I see.
Temporary, kind of like we have up by St. Benedict School for the crosswalk. They would not go on to Riley and Laramie because those streets are already narrow, but they would be on 2nd Street, and they would basically be in the area where we painted the yellow paint, right? So cars shouldn't be parking there anyway. However, right now, if a car does park there, someone reports it, it takes an officer time, maybe they go and give them a ticket, but they're still there, and in the meantime, it's still a dangerous situation with a car parked too close to the curb, creating a blockage. And so adding these temporary bump outs means no one can park there at all. The additional benefit of that is it creates, they call it like horizontal pressure to traffic. So like we see on 3rd Street, when there's parked cars, they go a little slower. Generally speaking, on 2nd, people feel a little comfortable to widen out at the intersections. That also leads to more crashes. You widen out, and then there's a car there, and you have to swerve back. These bump outs would make that that area less likely to have cars widening as they go through the intersections. So that's one consideration. It'd be like I said, basically if you drive up Second Street right now, look where there's yellow paint at the intersections, and you'd have a slight bump out at those intersections with these temporary traffic devices.
Okay.
And then if any of that is successful, one other thing they noted is that there's not currently a pedestrian crossing across Second Street from between Kansas and Unity. Every one of those intersections have north-south pedestrian crossings, but nothing east-west. And obviously, there are many students and staff and people who cross Second Street every day to get to Benedictine College and vice versa. Now, many of those cross at Unity Street, but not all of them do, and so they come down and then they're crossing somewhere on Second Street in an unsafe way. So another option would be to add a protected pedestrian crossing somewhere on Second Street. The recommendation from staff would be somewhere around Kearney, where you're not adding to a busy intersection, because Kearney dead ends into the alley, so there's not a whole lot of traffic there. There's a ramp down already at the intersection, so that you have ADA accessibility, and you can cross the intersection there. That would be another area where you'd build like that pedestrian bump out. It wouldn't take away any parking spots, because they shouldn't be parking in the intersection anyway, and would create another spot where cars are likely to slow down. And then if all of that is successful and if future traffic conditions warrant a change, we would look at the guidance of the MUTC, the Uniform Traffic Code. We would consider adding an all-way stop at Second and Mound as well as traffic continues, especially in the Raven Hills planned development that's going in right now. As housing goes in over there, most likely we want to give those residents a safe crossing across Second Street, where they don't necessarily have to use the narrow streets on Riley and Laramie. Mound is the most likely target for something like that, because it already has fairly equal traffic on a business day at that intersection. And then, you know, if all of that works, then we could look at in the future possibly making those more permanent, more beautiful looking than a temporary bump out. So that's kind of a lot. Like I said, you can look through that traffic study in front of you, take your time with it. We'll post it online for people to look at as well. That's kind of where we came down after a conversation with the engineers, as well as not wanting to do any kind of large scale project before we see if something smaller scale works first.
So if I'll make sure I understand this correct. We're looking for crosswalks across Second and Third Street on
Just Second Street.
just Second, not
Yeah.
Third Street?
Third Street is again not so much of a concern. We can do a crosswalk at Third Street if someone asks for it, but it wasn't so much of a concern.
Because the traffic count's so much smaller.
Yes, yeah.
And then there's the speed issue on Second Street.
And the real issue on Second is
Speed.
the speed.
Well,
And
they're
so we're
already
looking
speeding.
at traffic.
They're already speeding.
Huh?
They're already speeding.
Yeah, so we're
Just
trying to
coming here tonight,
yeah.
I'm coming south, two idiots going north, they're both going about 50,
Yep.
driving down the middle of the street. I had to get over to the side. I mean, they're coming right down the middle of the street.
Yep.
And there's also those of us that get a little road rage, you know, that every time you drive down that street, it's like a contest. You know, who's gonna who's playing chicken here? Who's gonna move over? So as a minimum, the things you mentioned, I think would need to be done, but I'm still in favor of the one-way street myself, so.
Not at all, I don't like one.
Well, I went last week and drove through St. Joe on a bunch of their one-way streets, and they got a lot of them.
Pain.
In the downtown area, I think that kind of thing makes a little more sense. It does create a significant issue for residents in a residential area. It also creates staff issues. We've talked about that our trash trucks only pick up on one side, and so all of the residents would be crossing the street with their trash cans every day and then going, or every week, and then going to get them, and then that creates more parking issues. I understand. However, with speed being the problem, a one-way street will actually only make it worse.
Okay.
What did this study
All right.
cost, do you remember?
This study,
Way too much.
think it may have been 8,000.
Okay, all right, 8,000, okay. All right, well,
Yes.
this is a
Commissioner
good
Murphy?
start.
Just one more question. There's no place on Second or Third Street that we're going to, I don't like the term speed bumps, but there's no place
Sure.
that we're going to raise.
That's not currently our recommendation. That is, so there's, I told you that there's horizontal pressure. There's also vertical pressure,
Yeah.
and that's a
That's what
speed
I'm
bump or a raised pedestrian crossing. I think that if you were to do all of this and then go back and measure again and still see speed issues, and you've got a pedestrian crossing, for instance, at Kearney Street, the idea of possibly putting in a raised crossing there might help with that. There are other trade-offs with that. I don't recommend temporary raised crossings because of the concerns with things like our snowplows. They catch those and would tear them out. So, we're looking at temporary at this point to see what works. If we get to the point where we're looking at maybe doing a raised crossing as a speed control and a pedestrian safety control issue, then that we would look at doing a permanent, concrete kind of crossing. And that's a larger investment and,
You know
we
what
wanna
that
make sure-
radar thing cost?
The speed limit signs? So varies based on what you want to get. The one I showed you tonight, solar powered, so you don't have to have power to it, I believe was around 35 or it was 3,800.
4,000.
It might have been 4.
See, boy, if I see one of them, I'm always thinking that maybe the guys right on the
Right.
other side of this, he's gonna stop. I think that's a real good solution. And then how about if this parking thing really concerns me? If we just put a post there, one of those little orange posts that glue to the street, instead of, that ought to be pretty cheap, and put it back where it can't park, maybe put like 3 of them
Oh, you
in a
mean instead of
row.
the bump outs?
Yeah,
Yes,
instead of a
yeah.
bump out, just put those 3
see.
posts in a row from the street back, that way you
Sure.
can't park there.
Yeah.
And if they run over them, it's no big cost, and if it doesn't work.
Sure. I mean, you can do
That
that.
would be a
There's,
real cheap way of taking care of giving people a place to come out before they get run over.
yes,
And I
yeah.
think that other thing, I wouldn't be opposed to that $3,800 to put one of them, we could move it to some other place periodically too, 'cause
This kind is pull mounted. It's not the kind that you like tow around on a trailer.
you can unbolt it from the pole and move it somewhere else.
If it helped, then you could do that, yeah. You can do those,
Just a post.
my concern with those is that they don't provide any protection, so like,
Yeah.
if you're looking at trying to protect the parked cars, because the places where parked cars typically get hit is the first car in line after an intersection, because you kind of subconsciously veer out, and then you gotta veer back, and you may not make it back.
Oh, you mean the car going down Second Street, you had a car parked there?
Parked right at the intersection, right. And so the secondary benefit of these bump out devices, even though they're temporary, they are strong enough that they would stop a car, maybe not a car going 67 miles an hour, but a car going the speed limit is going to have a hard time getting over those and actually hitting the parked car. So we can consider that as well, though.
Yeah, I think it's a good cheap way of trying it.
I don't know exactly where at, but what about a stop sign at Second in either Laramie or Kearney to force people to slow down?
Generally-
when they put stop signs in at Fifth by the junior high and down here, but we don't need those. We don't need those. Well, I think we need them, and I think they've been beneficial since they've been in there.
Generally speaking, it's not recommended to use stop signs as a traffic slowing device. They are traffic control devices at an intersection where they are needed at an intersection. There are guidelines that we try to follow with that. It's called the MUTC guidelines. We look at those. We've looked, the closest intersection on Second Street to meeting kind of the standard for a 4-way stop or an all-way stop is Second and Mound.
Well, the rest of it is sort of like a runway.
Yeah.
You just take.
Well, and that's what,
There you go.
that's the hope that these other things would help with that. Usually, if you have a long stretch like that, instead of doing stop signs to actually slow traffic down, you try to do speed calming devices like we're talking about here, or maybe raised crossings or speed bumps.
Well, there used not be a stop sign at the bottom of Second Street, either, nor in front of the church at Unity.
At Second and Unity, yeah. But that intersection
Tell me
meets-
those aren't necessary.
No, that intersection meets all of the standards. That's what I'm saying.
For 50 years, there was not one there.
Well, there probably wasn't a standard 50 years ago.
Well, there was a common sense standard.
There wasn't as much traffic.
But there was
40
a
years
lot
ago
more
on
student traffic.
Second. Because the River Road was just a gravel road, there wasn't much coming out to there. When that got paved, and that became a big.
But as far as students crossing there at Second and Unity,
I'm talking about
back-
Second, through down there, on a big
well,
steep
I know,
hill.
but we have a stop sign at Second and Unity, that I still think it's a mistake, but I'm not the one pulling the chain. But there were 3 times as many students going to Mass every day at St. Benedict's grade school, and we never had a stop sign there, and we put a stop sign there. Now it's more of a who goes first kind of thing. I'm not so, I don't think, I agree that I don't think stop signs, as far as slowing traffic down, doesn't do the trick.
All right. This was a great presentation. This is a good study, and we appreciate it. Does anyone else have any other comments?
Well, when would any of those actions be initiated?
Somewhat up to you. We're looking at, where the streets budget fits this year, and we might be able to do some of them this fall, and some of them may have to wait or be looked at next year.
I think definitely the sign that has the speed, I think we definitely need to consider that
Yeah.
sooner rather than later. You said, 67 miles per hour was
There
the
were-
top
yeah, there.
speed on Second?
That's
Yeah.
on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday.
How about at midnight?
Yeah. Well, midnight. I don't know why, but if you go through and look, the higher speeds on Second Street were all between 2 and 5:30, which is again not ideal. So maybe a little feedback. 2 and 5:30.
Okay.
But yeah, I expected that to be at like 2 in the morning or something, and it was not. It was 2 in the afternoon.
All right. Okay, very good. Anything else for us, Mr.
That's all I
Westhoff? Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will now have our governing body comments. Commissioner Greenlee? I'm sorry, I caught you in mid-drink.
Yep, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, Vice
good as
Mayor?
well.
You're good? All right. Commissioner Slattery?
I don't, this thing here we're talking about, we need to talk about in our budget. I think that's something that sort of thing, we use a different location, move it around. I can see we can have a little close thing and wrap it up, if you can make something like that. Sure. Keep our costs down.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Commissioner Murphy?
Well, the only thing I'm going to say, this has something to do with what we're doing next. But, one of the things that the citizens of our town request almost perpetually is lower taxes. And I hope that somewhere in our mindset, when we go into our workshop here, that we have that be on our minds. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. Because we have so many demands put upon us as well. We need to be conscious of what the people want us to do.
Well, then be quick in bringing up what things we're going to cut out.
I found 2 already, Larry.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I do agree with our Vice Mayor, when we go into our budget workshop, let's be mindful and prudent about what we bring up and the items that we feel need to be cut, those that are justified in staying. Additionally, this week is the Atchison County Fair, so please, everyone, come out, support the Atchison County Fair. As a former 4-H'er, I know that was important to me, and it's important to our current 4-Hers. Additionally, school is getting ready to start, I know for all of our schools, so please keep teachers in mind and parents and students as well. At this time, if there is nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to workshop. Is there such a
I
motion?
so move.
All right, is there a second?
Second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn to our budget workshop. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
It's like
We are
voting,
adjourned.
give yourself a toothache.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, James, for being here.
Quick break.
Do we want to have a 2-minute break, or? Okay, all right. So maybe a 5-minute break? Is that enough time?
Enough for me.
All right, 5-minute break.
26 budget is where that handout is. It's fine.
One is this one.